Hello and welcome to the second part of this 10 random facts about psychology video, which is actually 5 facts about psychology now. Woo! So I am not wearing any makeup or any jewelry because I just popped in to make an introduction for this video because every video needs an introduction. But I just want to say that this video is going to be way longer than the first one. I already know that because these facts, I also said it in the first video, these facts are purely, or not purely, but majorly lecture based. So I obviously had to learn them, I had to study them, so I have a lot of knowledge in them, I'd say. But I obviously hope that you like it and yeah, have fun. The next fact is actually one that I am so crazy passionate about because I recently, less than a month ago, took my biology exam, and that is a topic that I studied a lot, and it is about stress. And stress is actually way more harmful for yourself than you think it is, because the more stress we have, our body limits the blood supply to our gastrointestinal organs. I hope I said that right. English is my third language, so please, I hope you know what I meant. Be nice with me. And but on the other hand, the blood supplies to our muscles and heart increases, because when we experience stress, our body actually thinks it's a situation of survival where our life is being threatened. So it supports the organs that we need for our survival, like our heart and muscles, when we need to run from something, when we need to act or react quick, and it support or like stop supporting the organs that we don't need in that moment. For example, our digestion, our immunity, our skin, blood supply, whatever, we just don't need it in that moment. And evolutionary, it makes sense to have stress or to experience stress, because when we see, for example, a dangerous animal that can kill us or a tribe that isn't ours, we were being in danger and we needed to flee, we needed to run. It made sense back then, but nowadays our body and our brain can't differentiate if it is actually a situation where our life is being threatened, or if it's just a difficult exam or an exam that you need to pass to continue with university and don't be kicked out, for example. But as I said, our body can't differentiate it. Stress, if it's experienced over a short-term period, actually has a lot of beneficial effects. Like it can boost our immune system for a short time, our memory can be better, we can think quicker, we can react better. So it actually has beneficial effects if it's over short term. But if it's long term, it can actually cause heart diseases, blood pressure diseases. It can cause a weak immune system, even an autoimmune disease, and various of other conditions. Because after a long period of stress, our body... Oh my god, now they actually want to turn the sirens on. No! I'm still going to continue. I don't know if you can even hear it, but our body needs a relaxation time, and the relaxation time needs to be long enough. And in a lot of cases, it isn't long enough, or it gets constantly interrupted. For example, you just took your last exam, and then 2 weeks after, you need to submit a written assignment. Something like that. And your relaxation time can be constantly interrupted by... That happens, for example, a lot at jobs or at work, that you have a task, relaxation, and the relaxation times will be way too short for you. This is actually very harmful for the immune system, because our immune system isn't vital or necessary, crucial for our survival right now. So our body, like our system, will just suppress it, but that can lead to a lot of illnesses, diseases, and it can be very harmful for you. In worst case, it can lead to an autoimmune disease, but also you kind of need to have a genetic predisposition to get an autoimmune disease. But if we look at a family, those people that developed an autoimmune disease were the people that experienced a lot of more stress before they developed the disease than family members that don't have it. So stress actually leads to immune disease with genetic predisposition. Another huge thing is heart and blood pressure issues, because as I said, when we're stressed, our body blood, whatever supports the heart, like our heart just gets lots of blood, and that is also why we need to have a high blood pressure, and that means that our blood vessels are tightening. And if we're constantly stressed or the relaxation time is too short, that means that our blood vessels are constantly tight. And if that holds on for too long, the blood vessels can stay that way and they can use inflexibility and mobility. And so that means our blood pressure will be constantly high, and our blood vessels lose the ability to relax and loosen themselves again. This is also called essential hypertension. I'm sorry, I just feel like I lost focus at that point. But this is also very dangerous and basically is underlining again on how dangerous stress can be for yourself. And also heart diseases or cardiovascular diseases are very harmful for you when you experience stress. For example, in Germany in the year of 2014, the most common reason for people to die was something among the heart. It could be a heart attack, it could be a heart disease, it can be anything that just happens in the heart area. And I feel like you can replicate that on various of other countries, especially in the Western world. And a lot of scientists believe that that reason of death is due to our work overload that we experience, because we live in a capitalistic society. Like, it isn't a secret that money and having a job is crucial for our survival and means a lot to us, but that constant stress can cause a heart disease. So all that I want to do basically is to encourage you to actually take a break, and I know sometimes you can take a break. Like, sometimes you have a tight deadline, you have a tight schedule, you have high expectations. So I know that it's hard to set up time for yourself. But what I, for example, do is I set aside at least 1 hour for a day for working out or going on a walk, just doing something for myself. Or I cook myself a nice meal. I say yes when a friend invites me over, something like that. Or when the exam is over or whatever it is, I take time for myself to relax. Or when you have a job, make sure that your weekends, for example, or the time you get off is just for yourself and that work isn't overlapping with it. Because your body genuinely needs to relax, to regenerate. Otherwise you can tend to have immune suppression, heart conditions, or constant high blood pressure and various of other things that I didn't mention, because it will just break the frame that I set for this video by the length. But I studied way more for it than I just mentioned. So if you actually are interested in what stress can do for yourself and how harmful it can be, just let me know, and then I can make a long version about it. I can make a video just dedicated to it. But what I basically want to say is, if you are stressed, just make sure that you get enough relaxation and to never lose yourself in this. We are continuing with a fact about cheating, and I kid you not, this was my most memorable moment in university, in my lecture, because my professor, he just set up a demographic, a statistic, whatever, and it was the results of a survey conducted about cheating, where the participants were given two different scenarios, and they had to say which one would be worse or more hurting for them. And scenario A, also those people, they had to be in relationships. Scenario A was your partner cheats on you, but they have like amazing sex. They have like really passionate, best thing they ever had. Wow, that is scenario A. And scenario B is basically that your partner cheats on you and has an emotional connection with that person. And afterwards, people were asked what they think is worse, and men tend to say that the sex is way more worse for them, and for women the emotional connection is more worse. Like, is more worse doesn't exist, right? I'm sorry, is worse and more hurtful. I was so confused when I heard that. Like, luckily in that moment 2 guys were sitting next to me, and I just turned around. I was like, what? Because for myself the emotional connection was worse. Like, I genuinely can't imagine a scenario where version A would be more hurtful for myself. So I was like, oh my god, how can anyone possibly think that good sex is worse than emotional connection? So I just turned around, and the 2 guys next to me were just like, no, A is way more horrible, A is way more hurtful, because why would you just do that for sex? That is just rude and crazy and unempathetic or whatever. And that actually caused a question or like a confusion in me. And so I talked about this with a lot of people. So if you know me, you definitely had me asking what your opinion about this is. And all the women that I've asked, except of 2 people, one was unsure and the other one said A is worse, said that the emotional connection is way more hurting. And then I actually asked myself, okay, but what is the reason why men think A is more hurting, and women think B is more hurting? And there is a social reasoning behind that, and it is very simple. It is due to socialization. Because it is not a secret that men and women in this society get socialized in a different way. Because masculinity is often more defined by status and social dominance. Meanwhile, femininity is more defined by empathy, by being emotional, by being kind, by giving people emotional access to you, whatever. So it makes a lot of sense that when the partner of a man has a sexual intimate experience with another person, especially if that was another man, because then it's status being threatened man by man, it obviously threatens their social dominance and their status that they were being raised as. Like, men, they get socialized with the ideal that they have to prove to other people that they are masculine, or as masculine that it gets. So obviously another, like your partner having good sex with another person, hurts your ego a lot. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and that is also the reason why a lot of men don't think it's cheating if their partner cheats with another woman, because it's just constantly that status, that like view from society that is being threatened. And it is not a secret, men have a lot of like pressure when it comes to societal views about masculinity. But women are more like get raised to be more social, to be more emotional, more empathetic. So obviously when their partner has an emotional connection, it threatens them as the way that they were being raised. And especially if we look back into history, a woman was often reliant on their partner, because meanwhile a man used to have a lot of mistresses, or no one cared if a man was a virgin before marriage. A man could have cheated a lot and it made no difference, and a woman had to be a virgin. If a woman cheated, she would be hung, she would be murdered. And also, due to that information, it makes way more sense while women are being more threatened by emotional cheating. Because if a man, or if the partner, I don't even mean a heterosexual relationship, this could even be a lesbian, it could be everything, like it could be genuinely everything and anything. But if a woman's partner is falling in love with another person, historically it would threaten their supply and their survival, because historically women were suppressed and women used to depend on men. And I believe that we carry a lot of historical wounds that we got like raised by our parents, by our grandparents. So obviously a woman, it threatened her survival. So it makes a lot more sense due to socialization and historic background that men and women tend to be sensitive towards those two scenarios. Finally, the next one is again a lecture fact. It's fact 8. And blind people actually show activation in visual brain areas, or more precisely the visual cortex. Especially if people are blind since birth, they don't get any visual stimuli, they just don't see, it's just black. Obviously there are different variations of blindness, but you just don't see much when you're blind, basically. But it is proven, I will show fMRT scans if I find some, but I'll probably find some, but the brain reuses the visual cortex for other tasks. And this phenomenon is called neuroplasticity, where the brain can adapt to different circumstances. This is actually amazing, but it only works when the damage isn't in the brain. Like if it's a section of the brain being damaged, it can't readapt, it can't be used for another thing. But if another area, like for example your eyes or your ears are being damaged and your brain area is still completely fine, it can be reused or readapted. And blind people tend to be way more sensitive towards like when they hear something or when they feel something, like a texture. And we always say, oh yeah, blind people hear better because they get way more, like that's the only thing that they rely on, so they practice it more, they focus on it more. And obviously that is true, but there's also scientific proof that blind people can feel and hear better because their visual cortex gets reused. So it is basically more size of the brain being used for other tasks that people that have the ability to see don't use, because they use it for the visual aspects. And this counts the same for deaf people. It counts the same for like any diseases where the brain isn't being damaged, but the brain area can be used for what it's actually for. But I just explained it with blindness because I thought it will be the easiest. Placebo does actually work. And the most common, or like the most important mechanism behind it is actually expectancy. Because when you expect something to work, when you take a sugary placebo pill or whatever it is and say, oh yeah, this will reduce my headache, your brain actually activates various areas and systems in the prefrontal cortex. And these systems can reduce pain, they can regulate your hormones, they can regulate your emotion, and also the autonomic nervous system that can be regulated. So when you take something that technically does not work, our body also releases endorphins, and these can bind to receptors, and they can bind to the same receptors that morphine binds to, and morphine can reduce pain. And even though you're not actually taking morphine, like your body can just reduce pain just because of those endorphins being released. Did that actually make sense? In my head it didn't make sense. I will rewatch it and see. But this is actually beautiful because it means that you can condition your body to react to certain stimuli. So, for example, when you take that placebo, you can just, when you think, oh yeah, this is going to make me feel better, this is going to make me sleep, this is going to do this and that, it will probably work out just because of expectancy. This is also how many medications work. For example, a lot of depressants work like that, especially the ones that you don't get from the doctor and you can just buy at the drugstore. Or when I was in school, I had I felt like I was in huge pressure with my grades. So I was like crazy scared about tests and exams. So I had like this lavender sleep medication. And I think because I took it so much and so long, obviously there's like lavender works for me with sleeping. So maybe there's actually some proof that it makes you tired and sleepy. But genuinely, I conditioned my brain so much to lavender that whenever I smell or taste lavender, I genuinely get tired because lavender just means sleep for me. And that is something that my biology teacher in school, I think in like 7th grade, told me about. Like, for example, placebo can even work so that, for example, a lot of women want to get pregnant and maybe they are in a situation where they can't get physiologically pregnant, or they don't have the access to get pregnant, or they are not in a financial situation. So they just don't get pregnant, but they want to get pregnant. And they can want it so bad that, for example, they can get pregnancy symptoms like morning sickness, boob swelling or growth, and even their period can stop, which is crazy. And it's crazy how placebo can change your body. And sadly, it can work the same, or it works the same with nocebo. Nocebo is just the opposite of placebo. Placebo is a positive thing and nocebo is a negative outcome. I read it in a book once about traumas. I haven't done any research on this afterwards, but I'll just link the book somewhere here probably that I've read. But it was about, I think it was about a clinic where a doctor confused two patients with each other, and he told one of his patients that he has like a very dangerous cancer and that it's uncurable and that he only has like max 3 months to live and that he's going to die soon. And obviously that patient thought that he had that cancer. So he actually started to get symptoms and then died within those 3 months, even though he didn't have actual cancer and he wasn't really sick actually. I don't know if I remember this right, but as I said, I will check it again in the book and I'll put this book right there somewhere. But this also proves how dangerous nocebo could be and how dangerous it can be when you tell yourself something, even if it's like little things, like when you tell yourself that you're ugly, or when you tell yourself that you're not good enough, when you believe that you don't have the potential to do something. This can be way more dangerous than you think it is for you. So yeah, and those are just like micro habits that can encourage nocebo. But our brain is genuinely a beautiful, beautiful thing, because the human brain, genuinely, you can make the human brain believe anything, literally anything in the world. Like, for example, sometimes I just pretend that something is placebo and that something is actually going to work. Like when I feel insecure, I put this one fragrance on and I say to myself, oh yeah, this fragrance is for confident people, and whoever wears it is like perceived as super pretty and feels super good about themselves and is super confident, super smart, like always scores high in exams or whatever you want to do. So I genuinely sometimes just pretend that something is going to help me and that something is going to do placebo on me, because the way that you actually view yourself is actually way more crucial for how you're perceived and how your life is going to turn out than you actually think it is. So just use the theory of placebo more often in your life. It will genuinely benefit you, promise. Hello guys, and welcome to the last fact. It is actually the next day. As you can probably see by my outfit change and by my new hair, I do not know how to feel about those two things because it is dangling in front of my eyes, and I hate to have stuff in front of my eyes. It kind of makes me a little bit aggressive. But the last fact is actually something that is pretty bitter to swallow, and yeah, it is about a study, and the name of the study is Denying Rape but Endorsing Forceful Intercourse. And that is basically what it's about. More men agree to like forced sexual intercourse if the word rape is not being mentioned. And it got conducted in the year of 2014 by Edwards and colleagues in the University of North Dakota, I think. I'm not sure, but I think it's North Dakota. And the theory behind that was that a lot of men tend to be sensitive towards the word rape, and once it was being used, they seem to be like highly against the action. But once rape got rephrased and you say, for example, forceful sexual intercourse, or forcing someone to have sex, or sleeping with someone that doesn't want to, they don't seem to be highly against it anymore. So what they basically took to prove it was they took 80 to 90 male students from North Dakota as participants, and they had them to answer a bunch of questions if they would be likely to do that scenario or not. And in a few of these scenarios, the word rape was being used, but in a few of them it was rephrased. There were synonyms, but it was still the same thing being meant. For example, would you rape someone if there would be like no legal consequences for you? And surprisingly, when the word rape was being used, so when they had a scenario if they had to agree to rape someone if it wouldn't have any consequences for them, 12 to 13% of the men agreed to do that. And that is already a really high number, like 12%. That is crazy. And it is genuinely terrifying how you can be a man, how you can walk outside and be like, oh yeah, I would rape a woman or a man, doesn't matter, if I would have no consequences from it. I'm sorry, but how can you be so selfish? I'm sorry, that is just disgusting. And it gets even worse because when the word rape was not being used, the percentage was obviously way higher. It was up to 31 to 32% that would agree to do that action. And it is crazy because if we would replicate those 30% or even those 13% on the rest of the world, this would be a large group of people. And obviously it always depends on the place where the study got taken. It depends on the standards that the society has. It also depends, like for example, if you take more or less participants, the percentage can also vary. So yeah, not everything about the study is like settled, but obviously it is still terrifying. And I believe that there are a lot of men that are exactly like this out here or like in this society. And this study basically proved that a lot of men are sensitive towards the word rape, but not towards the action itself. So please stay safe out there. I do not know what to say about this because this is just abnormal, this is just bizarre, this is sickening. But yeah, I hope you have a lovely day and I hope you liked this video. It was actually very hard to choose from the facts because I've gathered a lot from books or like going to university, going to my lectures. So I can do a lot more videos like that. So if you want a little bit more, you can just let me know. And if there's actually a topic that you want me to talk about, then obviously let me know as well. I just like to let you guys know that I'm not a professional. I just studied psychology, but I didn't graduate. I'm in my second term now, so I'm pretty early in my studies. But yeah, I hope you liked it and I hope you have a lovely day. Bye bye.